Hello, welcome back. I hope you had a nice weekend Monday today, and in this video we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, and that is going to be copper. You may have heard about it before as a potential leading indicator for a recession. And in this video I'm going to explain how that works and why we should be paying a little bit more attention to copper right now, and kind of show you through how the whole situation with copper is working right now and what we can do about it. So before we begin this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you're not a subscriber already. That helps the channel a lot. A simple like can go a long way and actually bring more people to our channel here, so thank you for doing that. Now, copper, or as it is also referred as Dr. Copper, is a term that is used as a market sort of lingo here. And the reason for this is because copper seems to be one of these indicators that is widely reckoned as a leading indicator of a potential recession, of a potential economic downturn, for example. And there is a very important reason for this. The fact that copper has widespread applications in almost every sector in the economy. As you can see here, homes, factories, electronics, power generation, transmission, pretty much everywhere. Copper is used everywhere. And so an increase in the price of copper shows basically a strong demand for potentially all these applications, while a decline in the price of copper can show a decrease in economic health. This is why we need to be taking a closer look at what copper is doing. And again, in this video, I'm going to show you some very important things to keep in mind. I'm going to take you through the whole story of what has happened in the past couple of years, really, with copper, and why we should be paying close attention to it. Now, you will see here that in order to understand Dr. Copper, as it's mentioned in Investopedia here, the percentage of global copper production consumed by each sector is estimated to be around 65% electrical, 25% industrial, with the last 10% used in transportation and other areas. And it makes it a good leading indicator of the economics cycle, as you can understand. Now, there can be some limitations. For example, if there are some issues with production of copper, which doesn't seem to be the case right now, if you exclude the artificial reasons, which is like supply chains, for example. But tariffs would be another one, like if there are imposed tariffs that can actually affect copper. But we need to actually understand why the price of copper seems to be crashing right now and why it was going up much higher earlier in the past year or so. So let's start by taking a look at what has been happening in the previous years. Now, if you have been living in the US, you already have potentially received a stimulus check sent by your government. There were 3 waves, if you remember. Again, if you received these stimulus payments from the government, this free money pretty much. This happened 3 times, and it happened in April 2020, that was January 2021, that's the second round pretty much, December 2020, January 2021, and the last one was March 2021. So remember these dates now, starting from April to 20. Now let's take a little bit of a look at the copper futures here on Finviz, and this kind of takes us back to many years in the past in terms of what copper has been doing. And remember when we got our first stimulus check, that was April 2020. You can see the actual month here. You'll see April, May, March. And if I hover this part of the graph, this is March 2020, and this is April 2020, basically when the first stimulus check was sent over from the government. And now, as you can see, there was a steep increase in the price of copper. What happened here? So as you can understand, money was injected in the economy in an artificial manner. It was basically helicopter money given out to people, money that didn't really coincide with produced services. So we had higher money supply, less product really. And because people would be buying a lot of appliances, potentially devices and things of that sort that require a lot of copper, Now, companies and wholesalers started to actually demand more copper and produce more copper. So production of copper was more, production of these electronics were more, higher inventory, for example, leading to higher prices in terms of copper. Now, as you can see here, over here, for instance, you'll see where I'm hovering. This is May 2021 or April 2021. Remember when was the last stimulus check? Let's go back and check that. So the third round of stimulus checks, you can see March 2021 here. So let's examine our chart again on FinViz. So March 2021 would be around here. And as you can see, there is a little bit of a downturn that's kind of begins around this area here. A little bit of going down and then stabilization. But then all of a sudden there is this crash over here and the price of copper seems to be heading lower. So what has happened here? Of course, the stimulus money has basically been depleted. And with all the measures that have been taken in the past from governments, the lockdowns, the supply chain inefficiencies, the money that was dropped to people for no reason really, thus creating an insane amount of inflation. All these have contributed to people basically getting a little bit more broke than what they used to be. And so now they actually don't have that much money to buy all these copper goods. And so prices seem to be going down again. And when this happens, this can actually be an indicator, a leading indicator for a recession. And if you are actually a little bit curious about that and you basically potentially may not even believe that this could be the case, let's examine what has happened in the past in relation to copper prices. As you'll see here, a key economic indicator just fell into a bear market, and it's happened before every recession in the last 30 years. That's copper. Copper has entered the bear market, is what we talked about. The metal, which is an economic barometer, fell 24% from its peak in May 2021 on Friday. And this is very, very interesting to examine here. Now remember that we do not really have a way to predict a recession. It's a multi-factor thing, and it really has a lot to do with what governments decide to do, what kind of policies they decide to follow. But at some point, if they do the wrong thing over and over, then we are almost following a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this seems to have happened a lot lately. Lockdowns, free money, all these things that have happened with the economy are potentially, pointing to a potential recession upcoming. Now, again, we do not really know for sure, but we do have a higher probability than what we had, for example, 3 years ago. That's definitely the case. Of course, it doesn't mean that it will happen, but it's important to at least examine, the indicators here, the potential indicators. You will see that the price of copper, for example, in the London Metal Exchange, has fallen 24% from its peak, above 10,700 a ton to 8,255 a ton over here. And if we go down, you will see a very, very interesting chart over here. And again, we have talked about Dr. Copper basically earlier in the video, kind of chatted about what the price of copper means for the overall economy. But what I wanted to point out here is a very, very interesting chart over here. The chart that is showing copper prices plunging ahead of the last 4 recessions. You can kind of see them as leading indicators and kind of plunging before recessions would follow. Now again, this doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen again, but we do have a receding, pretty much a declining price of copper lately, and it may be a little bit of a concerning thing. Now, this is not magic. As I explained, it has practical utility in the economy. That's because copper is used everywhere. And again, if we have a decline in its use, in its price, then something could be potentially indicating a recession. And this is why I wanted to make a video and talk about it, because I think it's extremely important to at least take a look at it and be wary about copper prices. Now here's a very, very important thing that I wanted to talk about in this article. I have long mentioned in the past that I really love cyclical patterns, and commodities can be very cyclical. Most of them are really. And so if you were somebody who would like to buy copper and make some money out of copper, you would of course want to be buying it at a low price. And this is what is currently happening, at least for now, in the markets. It seems to be going lower, and we do have some potential predictions that it's going to go around this level, maybe a little bit lower even sometime soon. Now the thing is, there is something fascinating about copper here. You will see in this very interesting article here that record fiscal stimulus helped support strong economic demand as COVID-19 lockdowns came to an end, leading to a surge in manufacturing. Second, mining and refining disruptions resulting from local protests and facility closures have hampered supply, leading to historically low inventories in every corner of the market. Beyond that, copper's use in electric vehicles has been a huge tailwind for the metal in recent years. And basically the article is talking about how copper's exposure also to high growth energy transition sectors, EVs and renewables, creates a robust medium-term demand outlook, but its diverse end use also makes copper a barometer of economic activity and industrial production. So the thing is, and you can understand it based on what we have discussed so far, in the case of a recession, copper will actually plummet. Now, there is no two ways about that. It will have to plummet, activity will go down. But the thing is, we do know that green energy is a thing, and we do know that economies have an agenda and governments have an agenda about transitioning to this clean energy state. Whether you agree with that, whether you think that's efficient, is another topic which we could talk a lot about. It is kind of irrelevant here. A hint would be that it's probably a bad idea, but it's what we're heading for. And if that's the case, the thing that somebody who would want to make money out of copper would want to do is actually buy it when if a recession actually happens sometime soon, in preparation of a transition to clean energy. Because when that happens, we're going to be seeing a definite increase in the demand for copper. And when this economic activity kind of starts increasing again, we may be seeing some skyrocketing copper prices. It could very well be an unexpected commodity that will skyrocket in terms of its price. Now, this article here is wondering whether US copper supply will meet energy transition demands, and only if we take these steps is what is being discussed here. Of course, this is the president of the Copper Development Association here, so I guess he has some reasons to be talking about copper. But some of the things that he's saying here are very interesting and important, because as you'll see here, copper is an essential element for every clean energy technology we will rely upon for years to come. According to the International Energy Agency, global copper demand for solar cells could triple by 2040, with demand potentially more than doubling for wind power over the same time frame. Now, solar power and wind power may be kind of horrible, but it looks like again that this is where we're going to be transitioning to. And if that happens, which seems to be the agenda, then we're gonna be getting potentially higher prices for copper. So at the end of this video, what seems to be a potentially reliable prediction about what will happen with copper is eventually we are bound to see a decline for copper, which we're already seeing, and it may continue falling a little bit more. And then at some point, when economic activity grows, we may see a boom in terms of copper prices. And it is one of the commodities that we'll be paying close attention to, especially the upcoming 2 or 3 years, I suppose, and potentially accumulate some if it really falls at these levels here, or even lower potentially, especially if we enter a recession. But I really wanted to make this video because I think it is very beneficial for the viewers of my channel here. Can give some ideas and can kind of explain some kind of hidden facts about our economy here, kind of give you some food for thought. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the prices of copper, the potential of a recession that copper could potentially predict. What you think about all this. Please remember to leave a like as well if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something from it. And again, become a subscriber if you are not one, because why not? And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye-bye.